I think we can start, yeah? Hello, everybody, and welcome to our online seminar, What is the IPA Today? At first, I want to introduce myself briefly. I am Heribert Blass. I'm a psychoanalyst for children, adolescents, and adults, training analyst of the German Psychological Association, DPV, and I work in private practice in Düsseldorf, Germany. Since this year, I am the president of the European Psychological Federation, EPF. And of course, I am one of the over 12,000 and almost 13,000 members of the International Psychoanalytic Association, IPA. The IPA was founded by Sigmund Freud, together with charter members like Ferenczi, Abraham, and Eitingen in the year 1910 in Nuremberg in Germany. In the course of the 110 years since then, the IPA has evolved and of course changed. It has expanded from Europe to almost all over the world, and it's still expanding. And of course, there is a lot of scientific, conceptual, and also formal changes which have taken place. Today, we would like to have a closer look at these changes and in particular address the question, what is the IPA today? I'm very pleased that the president of the IPA, Virginia Ungar, and the vice president of the IPA, Sergio Nick, are about to speak on this topic. As an introduction, I would like to raise the following possible questions, which could be of interest in advance, but they don't have to be answered. It's just a first thought. The question is, of course, why do we need the IPA? What is the function of the IPA? Is it rather for so-called inside psychoanalysis, that means for connecting international colleagues? Or is it also for so-called outside world, outside psychoanalysis? That means in order to connect with the public and the scientific neighbor disciplines. And what does the IPA mean for our societal and public life, also and especially in these difficult times of the pandemic? These are only just some short questions. Perhaps they might come up in the discussion. Before I want to introduce our speakers, I just want to inform you as listeners that you can put questions on the chat function from the very beginning on. And please, if you want, ask your questions. We will try to take them up. I cannot promise that we will be able to answer all questions, but we will try, and I will try just to sort out questions perhaps which will be repeatedly raised, and then we will have a discussion with the speakers. So, thank you. Now I'm very pleased to introduce at first Virginia Ungar. I think most of you, or almost all of you, know Virginia and also Sergio. Nevertheless, I want to say some words. Virginia Ungar, she is a training analyst at the Buenos Aires Psychological Association, and she lives and practices in Buenos Aires, Argentina. She specialized in child and adolescent analysis, was the former chair of the IPA's Child and Adolescent Psychoanalysis Committee, COCAP, and of the Committee for Integrated Training. Integrated training means where training for adults and children and adolescents can be combined together. She is currently, of course, the president of the International Psychoanalytic Association. And Sergio Nick, who will speak after Virginia. Sergio Nick is psychiatrist and psychoanalyst. He's the vice president of the International Psychoanalytical Association. He's also psychoanalyst of children and adolescents and adults, member of COCAP, and he's an effective member of the Brazilian Psychoanalytic Society of Rio de Janeiro. So, Virginia, I want to give the word at first to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Heribert, and hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. Maybe for some of the attendees is the evening, depending on what part of the world you are joining us from. I must say that I'm very happy to be here with Heribert and Sergio, and now I realize that we are, the three of us, we are child and adolescent psychoanalysts. So I'm very pleased and to be with the two of you, but also with the people who is watching and listening this webinar. You know that we've been doing the IPA special COVID-19 webinars since the start of the pandemic. Now, we are also organizing different webinars related to other topics. It is good to know that we not only increased the number of webinars and their languages, but we also increased the capacity of attendance. The pandemic has intensified our need to be connected and to feel that we are part of a unique international community. I know that this has been said many times, but I would like to say it once more. COVID-19 continues to hit very hard across the whole world, highlighting our vulnerability and the fact that we live in times of uncertainty. It has also revealed a reality more often, a reality that more often than not, we would rather deny regarding the huge inequalities that exist, not only in terms of education and job opportunities, but especially in public health. As I said in the October newsletter, the IPA is urging politicians and policymakers to prioritize mental health services so that access is available to all. We wanted to meet all of you today after, yes, maybe now it's more, but it's the end of the 3rd years and some months of our Latin American administration to tell you about what the IPA is today, as Heribert said. Since the beginning, with our slogan with Sergio, has been an IPA for all. This reflects the inclusive character of our organization because you can imagine the differences it contains in terms of geography, languages, time zones, and cultures. It also refers to the fact that we understand that there are differences and these differences need to be contained and respected, not denied or erased, because we need to put them to work in a constructive and positive way. Changes come with turbulences, and we face them. We want to stay open to listening to the needs of each society, each member. This is why we have a board of representatives who have a link function. They receive requests, suggestions, and they convey information. Just to finish, our administration has emphasized 3 goals. 1, take psychoanalytic knowledge, and this refers to one of the questions that Heribert posed, but he said that they were inspirational questions that maybe can be answered, some of them, during this presentation and in the, along with the conversation. But we have 3 main goals. Take psychoanalytic knowledge to the community by getting out of our consulting rooms and institutions and taking it to the places where it is most needed. We think that after having received a very good psychoanalytic training and after having internalized the analytic method and attitude, we can work in the community and offer our help, especially to young professionals working in the community, to face the tough reality of society today that is even more difficult with the COVID. This is the core of the new structure of committees that we have inaugurated in this administration, and that is called IPA in the community. Sergio will refer to this. The second was improve the communication with our members, being closer to one another. Third, an intensive work program, working programs with the candidates or analysts in training, as we call them in Latin America. We will continue with these aims, and the administration that will follow us has also expressed their commitment to continue on this path. So now I will give the mic, in a virtual way to Sergio, that will present. We will give a presentation.
Thank you so much, Virginia. My idea here is to follow something that we have been working with from the very beginning of our administration, which is trying to explain what is IPA. We were astonished by the fact that many people doesn't know what is IPA. IPA is more of a sign other than a real association for many. So our idea is to try to convey what is IPA and how it is organized nowadays. Matthew, please, the first slide. You know that we are a membership organization. We exist because of our members and for the benefits. And is the world's primary accrediting and regulatory body for the psychoanalytic profession. The primary aims of IPA is to foster and enhance members' sense of participation in and belonging to an international psychoanalytic organization and community. And second, to advance psychoanalysis and to ensure the continued vigor and development of the science of psychoanalysis. Next. For this, as Virginia said, we wanted to make each member present on our administration. This is why we are trying to convey these webinars. Peter, next. Next, please. We have now 12,815 members and counting, and more than 5,000 candidates on 86 societies, 14 study groups in 47 countries across the world. You will see that when I will speak about the webinars, we more than double the numbers of countries we are achieving nowadays. Next. If we start to, you can put the whole list, Matthew. If we start to say what we offer to the members, you will see there are a big list of things that you can get from the IPA. The Congress, being part of the organization, being part of new groups that we are trying to develop around the world. You see 35 new groups, the IPA Interregional Encyclopedic Dictionary, where we are trying to make as much translation on more than 8 different languages around the world. Another publication, which is Psychoanalysis Today, which is a 3 issues per year e-journal with different themes. The CAPSA, where you can, each society can ask to have up to 3 psychoanalysts from other regions coming to participate at clinical, theoretical events. Unfortunately, it's not possible and in person nowadays, but you can do it online, of course. We try to get $1 million loan program to candidates who have difficulties with the cost of training. Next. We have, in terms of research, we have made a very big efforts to promote research in IPA, and we have now, after 20 years, more than 500 research papers or research documents at our website. We have 107 committees with about 600 members participating in it. We have a library of policy and best practice documents. Next. Next, please. We have now a partnership with Routledge and many awards to recognize IPA members' achievements. Next, please. We have the IPA website. We have monthly and now more than monthly webinars. We have the IPA blog. We have the social media committee with more than 33,000 people following IPA there. The visiting candidates program, where a candidate can go from his institute to another institute abroad and know how is the psychoanalytic education there. You will see we have the IPA, the community committees. We are always trying to work very close to IPSU, which is part of IPA, in terms of we have a very strong link with them, which is the International Psychoanalytic Students Organization. And we have also access to Lexicon, which is our new office in London, in central London. Next, please. Lexicon is a beautiful building next to Angel Station. Next, please. Just to show you some photographs about Lexicon. This is the member rooms. You can get there and have some coffee and print something there or read some books. Next, please. You can see the ex-presidents. Next, please. Right on the left. This is the big one. Some place where you can chat. You can be on your right. Next, please. Next. And just to finish, to give you an idea, how is IPA organized? We have the board, which is elected by all members. The board elects 3 members of the whole board to be the executive committee. And the IPA is split in 4 different areas. Next, please. The administrative and governance committees, you will see how many things that we deal with between communications, election, task forces, institutional issues, ethics, confidentiality, awards, appointments, Asia-Pacific, finances, and events. It's a big bunch of things that we have to deal with, and the task force and groups are all assigned usually on the board's request to study a specific issue. Like, for instance, remote training. We are already 1 year and some months with this task force studying remote training. Next, please. We have the scientific committees, CAPSA, COCAP for children and adolescents, COWAP, which is the woman, families and couples. And now we are trying to make those committees working together on specific projects with members of all those committees. Now on child abuse and prejudice and racism. We have sexual and gender diversity, aging, history of psychoanalysis, and the research committee. Next, please. And then we have the development committees, which is ING, the International New Groups, the Psychoanalytic Education Committee, the Clinical Observation Committee, the Working Parties Committee, which is now trying to gather all the knowledge that the many working parties already done in the whole world in Congress and out of Congresses, to see if we can gather all material together and discuss it and try to find some common theory and clinical practice out of these working parties. We have the IPA Relations Committee, a publications committee, and the Integration and Relocation Committee. When a psychoanalyst go from his country to another one, he can get help from them. Next one. The next one is what we organized and presented to the board, and the board approved to have the IPA and the community committees. The main idea here is that the best way for us to convey how we think, how we deal with people, how we approach mental health problems is if we go out of our offices to those different areas: education, humanitarian organizations, health, violence, law, culture, and now is a very brand new committee, is a climate committee. Virginia will talk a little bit about their first work here. So the idea, next please, the idea for us is to give a big panorama of the many tasks that IPA do and what is changing nowadays. I will give the words back to Virginia, and she probably will go on with this PowerPoint presentation. Virginia, please.
Yes, thank you, Sergio. Thank you for presenting the work and the way we organize our work, because it is important. It looks like, you know, a slide, but it can give you the idea of how we face, you know, things that have already been part of the IPA. But as Sergio mentioned, for example, inside the structure of the IPA and the community, we inaugurated a new committee on climate change, but because we think that psychoanalysis has something and some important things to say. The same happened when we were witnessing what was going on and still is going on all over the world regarding racism. So we, for example, we asked the 4 of our committees to work together, and there is an intercommittee project on prejudice and racism. So this is what we wanted to show to you, that the IPA, even if it is a huge organization, sometimes it feels to be very far away. We try to get, you know, to the people and to the needs. And one of the things that we want to convey to you, I will try to be short so we leave enough space for questions or comments or both, is that what are we doing and what we have done and still what is still being done regarding the pandemic that is hitting, as I said, in a very hard way, the whole world, affecting health, you know, not only health, also, of course, health and mental health, and also, you know, our lives. So let me tell you with this nice PowerPoint that Sergio organized, because I don't have enough skills to do something like this, also including the virus. So what is the IPA doing for its members and candidates during the COVID-19 pandemic? Please, the next. Okay, so this is a statement that we sent out, but it was signed by me almost immediately, and it was sent to all members and committees and not the committees and societies. This, and I will read it. Due to the current exceptional circumstances, we decided to suspend until further notice the requirement for IPA component societies to consult the Education Committee before using remote training, analysis, and supervision, because this is what our procedural code says now. Sergio made a remark that we organized a task force that is devoted, and they are studying and working tirelessly, studying from the psychoanalytic point of view, the remote training and reviewing the policy, but this is what is happening now. Next, please, Matthew. We asked the social media and the confidentiality committees to organize a document with guidelines for telehealth. Next, Matthew, please. We launched the IPA Health Crisis Listserv for the COVID-19 pandemic, organized by the IPA in Health Committee. Harvey Schwartz is the chair of that committee, and he's working a lot on this, in order to provide a space for our members and candidates to exchange experiences, concerns, and reflections, and to support each other. This is one of the resources we started or we organized. You know that now the listserv has more than 1,600 subscribers today, up to date, with over 750 contributions in different languages. You can contribute to this, so all members can do that. You don't have to take care of the language. They will help. We set up the COVID-19 resource page. It's named Stay Connected, again in the official languages on the website, with over 90 articles, papers, and other useful materials in different languages. So if you go to the website, you know, Matthew is helping us to show what you can find in Stay Connected, but I suggest, or I invite you to visit that page. It's very interesting. There are scientific papers, but there are also experiences shared there regarding the COVID pandemic, personal experiences. Next, please. So as I said, we organized the COVID-19 special series of webinars. And as I told, we decided to increase the frequency. From the end of March until today, there have been 18 webinars in different languages. Not only the official language, English, Spanish, French, German, but also Italian and Portuguese, with a total of more than 21,000 views for 108 countries. Next, please. We organized special editions of the two IPA podcasts, IPA On and Off the Couch and IPA Talks on Psychoanalysis, that are devoted to the current pandemic. I also invite you to visit. They are very, very interesting. People from all over the world are contributing. The next, please. So we are closely supervising the Vancouver Congress contracts, evaluating the possibility or not of an in-person or online event. Let me tell you, because Sergio is in charge of because we divide our tasks, and they are working hard, you know, on the program. We received many contributions, many submissions, and they are working hard in the organization and in the possibility of what Congress we will be able to have. You will know more in the next months. There is another one. Matthew, is there another one? Okay. Oh, I said something about the climate committee, and they produce a video that I invite you to visit our website, Corona, Climate, and Grandma. This committee is chaired by Sally Weintraub. And now, to finish this presentation, I have to say that we are very proud to share the initiative of many of our IPA component societies all around the world, we are really proud that are offering free online assistance and forums to their communities. This is we are really proud of this, and thank you very much. Okay, Heribert.
So thank you, Virginia, and thank you, Sergio, for your presentations and your information about this really broad program. And then I think we all could see and can see how much the IPA has evolved since 1910. Yes, this was the starting point from my first words. And yes, I personally appreciate very much what you are doing for psychoanalysts and also non-psychoanalysts. And it seems that psychoanalysis is just very much grounded in our current world today. And I personally think it's clear that it's not only some work doing in the consulting room, but see the pandemic, see the climate crisis, that psychoanalysis is also connected to the public world. I have a first question, and I want to give this question to you. There is the question, how do you imagine that will be the future of the IPA? It's a very broad question, but also a very important question. I think perhaps Virginia, you will be the first to answer, and then Sergio.
Sergio.
No, Virginia, I thought Virginia, you will start.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, it's very interesting, your question, because it's something that I ask myself frequently about this, and even more, we have to be, we have to use our imagination because we are living in times of uncertainty. And one of the things that the pandemic brought is that, I'm not saying the impossibility, because you can always have a fantasy or a dream or a wish, but it is difficult for us, for everybody, to live in the uncertainty. But I think that the future of the IPA, I think that the IPA, the IPA is sensitive to the changes, and to the changes regarding, the times we live. And it's not now, because I also wrote a paper for the Boston Congress about this issue. But from my point of view, the most important thing is that we psychoanalysts need to be able to keep the passion for the work we are doing, despite the difficulties, and taking into account that we live in a culture, we live in a society, and that now psychoanalysis, if going back to the history of psychoanalysis, there was a time in which the attention was put on the patient side. Then with the developments of, the countertransference, it was, mostly focused on the analyst mind. Then there were contributions like the Baranché in the analytic field, where, we learned that it is something that is produced in between two persons, the patient and the analyst. I think that we are living in a world and in an era that psychoanalysis has to take into account the context, the culture. And my feeling is I have an optimistic view. I'm not a person that uses to deny, but I have, a positive impression on the future of psychoanalysis when we work together with young analysts, also with experienced analysts, but with the strength and the passion they have for their work, even the difficulties we have to face. So this is what I think we need to convey. The passion for psychoanalysis, and also to be open to the changes and to think about the changes. It doesn't mean that we need to do things immediately. We have to think about the changes. And as you said, and you can see, there were many changes that were implemented, even if the times of changes bring turbulences. We have to face turbulences. We know how to do this because we are psychoanalysts, and we have to move on.
Thank you, Virginia. Sergio, do you want to comment on this too?
Sure. I like to talk about the future, although I think youth members and candidates would be more likely to give us good ideas about that. This was the idea we had at the beginning of our administration. We made a think tank on the future of psychoanalysis, which ideas was to invite young people to discuss it. Only with young people we will be able to understand better what's going on nowadays in the world and how we can address it using the psychoanalytic tools. But I think that due to the pandemic, we have now a huge field to use our knowledge. You know, Kerry Silkovich, the next APSA president, called it the second pandemic, which would be the mental health pandemic after the whole issues raised by COVID-19, which is fear of death, confinement, family conflicts, anxieties, and so on and so forth. As we saw on many of those free online resources, many societies offer it. And many colleagues are saying, as you said at the beginning, Herbert, we are more and more being searched by people need of mental health resources. And I think that this is time for us to be together, to work in terms of strengthening our field and strengthening how we can offer psychoanalysis everywhere. This will need something that impressed me a lot, because when we started the COVID-19 webinars, we thought we will reach around 60 countries. In the end, we saw that we reached 108 countries around the world. And we were not speaking many languages like the Asians and Hebraic and others. So people are keen to listen to us, are keen to understand what we were saying, and our colleagues were presenting on the psychoanalytic field. And to close this quick remarks, I think that psychoanalysis will survive ever while we have the humanism present in life, in human life in the world. Where there is human feelings, where there is emotions, where there is conflicts, where there is human and emotional pain, psychoanalysis has a place and has a very good tool to offer to those people. Thank you.
Can I add something that, I remember some discussions we had with Sergio when we were writing our statement. Because can I say this,
Yes, of course.
Okay, I said we wrote our statement and we were together for more than 1.5 years before we took on the position. And I wanted to say psychoanalysis is the best psychotherapy that as I wrote that one psychotherapy, and Sergio said, no, the best, no, better you don't say the best. But I still think this is the best we can offer. This is the best, maybe because this is what I want. I would like to highlight that to have a future that I also bet for a good future. And one of the images that I kept in my memory, I think is one of the most, emotional. It was when IPSO organized in London last July 2019 Congress. IPSO organized what is called the Freud Bar. It was held in the Sigmund Freud's Museum and House Gardens, and we were all together talking about the future of psychoanalysis in Freud's garden. It was impressive. And I think that the future of psychoanalysis depends many factors, but mainly on us, what we feel and what we convey, and the capacity to be all together, facing the present and the future and the changes.
Yes, thank you both for your ideas about the future. And now there are the potential future, of course. But then now there are some questions related to a nearer future because and some organizational questions because colleagues want to know more about the Vancouver conference. Can you say more about the Vancouver Congress? And especially there is also a question related to this, whether it could be an organization of combined in-person and online conference. I personally would call it, we had the same in the EPF, a hybrid conference. So this is a question which comes in the chat, and perhaps you can say something to this again.
May I start, Virginia?
You are the one who takes care of the Congress.
You know that Vancouver Congress, we have as the theme, the infantile, its multiple dimensions. We received more than 350 proposals on those days. It were very good, very good. We usually receive 500. We already evaluated each of those proposals. The program committee, which is chaired by Jorge Cruz, are working tirelessly on choosing the proposals. And at the same time, IPA has a committee called Congress Working Group, which is Virginia, me, the treasurer, and some of the staff members who try to get some figures about the whole issue of would it be possible to have an in-person Congress or not? We still have not decided on that. Why? Because we were moving into a hybrid Congress. In the middle of the studies of the hybrid Congress, we realized that a session at 1 p.m. in Vancouver would be a very late night in Europe, and so on and so forth. So to have a really hybrid Congress will make members waking up in the middle of the night to participate or attend or make a comment in a session, which wouldn't be good. This is why we are not too keen to have a hybrid Congress. At the same time, we are waiting until December to see what the 11 vaccines that are now on the phase 3 trials. Some are saying that they have 90% good results. First, if that results are really real or not only propaganda, and second, would they be available until maximum end of February worldwide? Because otherwise, how can people travel and decide on travel if the vaccine is available on late May, early June. The majority of the vaccines says that they will be worldwide available on the second part of 2021. So it's not very wise to think that the vaccines will be a good way for people to get to an in-person Congress in Vancouver. So we are waiting those news, and at the same time we are building up a program, a tentative program that could be in person and could be online. So this is what we are doing nowadays in terms of organizing the Congress.
Yes, thank you. I think this is we have to wait. Yes, but I'm very impressed by all the work that all the committees and you all are doing for organizing this conference, where we think all of us want to intend to go, but due to these difficult times, we have to wait. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, I just want to combine some questions which came in and which are related to the expansion of the IPA. Yeah? As I said, it started in Nuremberg, and now it's expanding almost all over the world. And to this almost, I think there is one question whether you can say something more about the development of the fourth region, about the Asia region, yeah. And related to this is not the same, but I will put these two questions together. Is another question whether you can say something more about future trends of psychoanalysis in Western and Eastern societies. Yeah, there's also again the question of West and East, and connected to this, do you have any suggestions for the new candidates that are going to be future analysts? So I think this is a question which is just connected to East and West. I think this is something which is very important for everyone who wants to become a psychoanalyst. Perhaps Virginia, will you start?
Yes, thank you, Heribert. I will start, and I will leave some part of these questions to Sergio, who is, you know, he's as I said before, we divide our tasks, and we both belong or are ex officio members of the Asia Pacific Planning Committee. Sergio, yes, we have a special committee devoted to the future, what is called the Future Fourth Region, the Asia Pacific Planning Committee, and we participate together with the presidents of the different societies that compose the Asia Pacific possible fourth region. There are new society study groups and what we could call all societies. Japan, India, Australia are already IPA component organizations. And there is also, and please remind me if I forget, Sergio, Taiwan, South Korea, and China.
China is not still a study group. They are very close to it.
They are not still a study group. So maybe I'm forgetting something. Sorry. We are in spring here. The allergies. Okay. So it's never only one with me, 6 or 7, so I announce it. I would like to refer in a general way to the word expansion, and I think it is important because the way IPA works with new groups on new, in different parts of the world, that it is amazing. When, for example, when we have to organize a meeting of the Asia Pacific Planning Committee, let me tell you that while we are in Buenos Aires and Rio at 7 a.m. a.m. in the morning. In Australia, it's I think it's 13 more hours at 10 p.m. And for Teresa Pai, who is in Taiwan, I don't know. And we always said, oh, you are so good, you come to the, so imagine that waking up in the middle of the night. But this speaks about what I've said before about the differences that we have to respect and contain. And this is a problem for an IPA Congress. You know, Heribert, as you are the president of the EPF, I've been invited for the, I don't know, I've been attending the EPF conferences for many years, but it's different when you have to combine South America with India, for example, in terms of time differences. Right. But, you know, this is an already working committee. They are working in a very good way. They are working hard. Sergio will explain about the already organized congresses that we have, and the next, we are very sorry because we had to cancel the Sydney conference that had to take place last May, and it had to be canceled. And the next will be in 2022 in India. So to give you, you know, some landscape. Let me say a word about the expansion. The way IPA works with new groups is that new groups, the IPA new groups, receive requests for training. I think it is important for the people who are attending the webinar now to know that it is not that we go there and we offer psychoanalysis. We receive requests. And I think this is the best way because this is the way we work in psychoanalysis. We receive requests. No? It's different than other things. So this is, I think, the philosophy, and it's interesting. And I have to say that it's new groups, and new groups also works together with an organization that is in a partnership with the EPF and IPA, the European Institute, and the same with FIPAL and IPA, the Latin American Institute. It means that they give training and work to, you know, to build up new groups that could become component organizations in places where there's no psychoanalysis. So this is the general view. And regarding the candidates, I would like to mention something. We have a common friend, Fred Bush, who organized a publication that I think it's been launched these days. And he organized a publication, and the title for the book is Dear Candidate. And he asked some of us, a group of analysts, to write a letter to an imaginary candidate. So each one of the participants wrote a Dear Candidate letter to an imaginary candidate. I can say what I said, some of what I said, and I said that the first thing that I said is that I want to congratulate you for having, because you took the IPA training, and it has its differences, and it's a kind of, it's not a very long way, but it's a long way. We have requirements, personal and training analysis, supervisions, seminars, and you know it. And I say that it's not easy to be an analyst because we become analysts through a process. In the same way, Simone de Beauvoir said that you are not born a woman, you become a woman. So you become an analyst through a long process. And I congratulate the imaginary candidate for having taken this route, you know, because there are different offers now that are shorter, or maybe we could say easier, I don't know. So I wanted to convey this way, the way I think regarding the training and the candidates.
Well, I don't know if I have too much to say about the Asia-Pacific region. I think Virginia mentioned the most important parts. we are really keen to have them more close to us, although there are language, cultural, and distant barriers, but we are trying to see how to deal with it. There is something that we decided that the Asia-Pacific region will have from 2 years now someone who will participate at the IPA board meetings. It was first an Australian and now a person from the Taiwanese study group. And they are, in that sense, most better aware of what is IPA and what they want to convey to IPA about their needs. My feeling is that we are, in terms of Eastern Europe, and many parts of Latin America, we are really going on with building up new groups, forming direct members, which are the analysts that doesn't participate at the component society, but had been trained by psychoanalysis and training analysts on these institutes and are able to become an IPA member. The same in China. China has developed a lot. We have more than 11 direct members now. I don't know exactly the name. And they are very close to start the first study group there, which means they will start psychoanalytic training there as soon as they pass through some government requirements. And still the big challenge is the language, my point of view. It's not easy to understand and follow what language, I mean, is cultural barriers. Is something that we made a very strong effort to go through these barriers. And I think they all made the same. I don't know if that was in the question, but there is also, in terms of expansion, we are not kind of expansionist group. We don't know to be everywhere at any cost. We want to have real psychoanalysts representing IPA psychoanalysts all over the world. But this takes time. It's not easy to get through a psychoanalytic training, and not everybody is keen to pass through it. But this week, I received a very, and forgive me, my daughter, if I'm saying something that I shouldn't, but he told me this week, I'm considering starting up psychoanalytic training on an IPA society. And I asked her because she has now a kind of not IPA psychoanalysis. And I asked her, why in IPA? And she told me, I went to several congresses, FEBRAPSI, PEPAL, IPA, and others. And on IPA congresses is where I listen more profound and comprehensive psychoanalysis than any other. This speaks for something, I think.
Yes. Sorry if I think this is a good example. What you said, I want to underline what you said, Sergio, that what we offer, I say it's all IPA component organization. We offer a very good, from my point of view, training, and you have to, you have to take the decision, and this is a training that it's different. But I think that in the difference, This, this is the core of the issue, what we offer to the candidates.
Yeah, thank you again. I just want to make one or two remarks in between. One remark relates to the slides, and I want to tell you all that you can see the slides and have the slides from next week on the IPA website. So you don't have to write and ask for the slides to be sent personally to you. Everybody who listens to the webinar can have the slides on next week on the website. Yeah, this is one information for all of you. Then I just want to again to combine some remarks. At first, I want to say that there is a appreciation, just a feedback for you, Virginia and Sergio, that and also for the whole IPA, that the colleague says it's very good to have a feeling of not being alone, yeah? and that one can be fortunate to have this community of colleagues. I personally think this comment, I can fully agree to this communication. Then there is another question which is related more to the internal policy of the IPA.
Yes.
This is, perhaps I will say both parts to you, and then you can choose what you want. There's also an appreciation of the communication, that there is an emphasis of an improving communication, but the colleague asks also, is there a certain policy of the way how members are informed of the work of the committees? Yeah, is there certain policy of communicating more perhaps directly and perhaps precisely of the work the committees are doing? And then I want to combine this with also perhaps the question of the future candidates. If I may, even if I'm the moderator, I think this is very much related to the question of becoming a candidate. There's another comment where the colleague also appreciates the positive and optimistic view of the future of psychoanalysis, but there, combined with this colleague describes a fear which one can see often, and I personally can confirm this, that some colleagues think that psychoanalysis in the future could become diluted, yeah? That we will lose the core or essence of psychoanalysis, and others fear that psychoanalysis in the future could become frozen and stiffed, and there are a lot of fightings around this. I personally think, but it's up to you, that also this let's say just projection of the future, whether psychoanalysis will dilute or whether it will become a kind of a frozen theory, has much to do with candidates or future candidates, because I think they have to orientate themselves between these potential developments, and I think there is a wish to talk about this. Yeah, perhaps I will stop here and give the word to you. But,
There was something, sorry, Heribert, maybe one question when you started to speak about candidates, I lost something.
No, this was my idea only. The question is, because the let's say the contrast or the potential contrast between the future of psychoanalysis, is the danger of the delusion. I would just formulate it: will we lose the core elements of psychoanalysis? Could this be, by the expansion? I think this is, to my mind, behind this question. Or could it be that psychoanalysis just will be an old-fashioned. In Germany, I have a problem to translate it. In Germany, there is a certain expression from it's called das Veralten der Psychoanalyse, yeah? Becoming very old, yeah? And just by it's not up to date anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes.
And I think this is a dilemma which is just described by the colleague who raised this question. And I personally think, but this is my addition to this, that future candidates, I think, have to deal with this because, of course, they want to learn and to acquire something new for them, yeah. Whether this should not be old-fashioned, but which should also not be something like anything goes. Yeah? So sorry for my long explanation.
No. You are conveying to us the questions together with your way of thinking, and this is very interesting. I think that we are having a very enriching exchange, and it's important to us to know what people think. That this is why we organize this kind of webinars. I can see, the communication. Maybe I will leave to you, Sergio. Of course, if we want to say something about this, because we have in a way improved, yes, but increased the way we are addressing candidates. Somebody, a young member not from Argentina said the other day, now the IPA became familiar to me. I didn't know what the IPA was. I had my training, and she's a full member, but now I know what the IPA is. I don't say that we have done, everything, because it needs more improvement, but we are doing our best. I think this, this kind of dialectic, I think, between becoming frozen or becoming diluted or becoming, how do I say, frozen, diluted, these are the fears. Diluted, frozen, I think that these are dangers. Of course, these are dangers, and we have to take them into account. This is why we have to be, as Sergio said, we have to do our best. For it, one of the main functions is to offer training and to offer the best training we can offer. It doesn't mean that we don't have to take into account the cultural changes, and this is something that I think it's the responsibility for all our institutes, for example, just to tell you an example, to review what kind of psychoanalysis are we teaching now. Of course, we have a core of concepts, theoretical, clinical, and even technical. Our core, the starting point is Freud, and we have to study Freud. When I did the training, I had 2 years, only Freud. And then we had other, but every institute has a responsibility to offer, not only to be, watching or keeping the standards, also what kind of psychoanalysis are we teaching now? If we don't take into account the cultural changes that we experienced since 1910 up to now, this is a danger of having a frozen psychoanalysis. But if you take a view on the submissions, for example, for the next Congress, I think that we don't have to fear this. We don't have to be scared. You will see the offer. You saw when we decided to put the title on the feminine, it brought not only the femininity, it also brought, studies on gender that they didn't start, in the field of psychoanalysis. Psychoanalysis took them, and they are discussing. Just to tell you, we have for the 3 or 4 years, an IPA committee on sexual and gender diversity studies. So psychoanalysis is addressing, we organize the climate change committee, we organize the intercommittee project on racism. If psychoanalysis is blind and deaf to the changes of the culture, I don't see a good future, but we are taking care of that together with taking care of, the issues regarding the training, and not only the training, the content of the training and the format of the training. And this is very important. I think that these are very important questions, and I want to thank you, the people who sent this question. It is very important to have all these things on the table and to listen to different views and feelings. But the most important thing is to keep the unity, taking into account the differences we have even within regions or even within countries or inside your own association. We have to make the difference work in a productive way. Sergio? I'm not Hedy, but you are there.
No, it's Sergio. Thank you, Virginia.
I had several thoughts about this question, and I think Virginia almost addressed all of them. I will give you an example on communication. I was asked by Claudio Asili when he started in 2005 as the elected IPA president to build up a public information committee. I worked 6 years on this committee, and I noticed how difficult it is to make communications, to spread abroad all the work IPA do and what are all members doing all over the world. I think that it came to a conclusion that nowadays we are more able to communicate what we do, which is really fantastic. We have the e-newsletter each month, we have the podcasts, we have the webinars, we have the listserv, we have the website. And what is incredible, and this is to answer one of the questions, that many committees are now asking for their own place at the website. So we are slowly having improvement of each committee news and results and notice and studies that they have been doing in IPA, publicize it at the website. And I think this is still ongoing work, but people are keen to do that. I think in a way this question about lose the core concepts of psychoanalysis relates to what is called the slippery slope, that we are, if we lose too much the standards of training, we will get to a place where everything is possible, which is a big and real danger. At the same time, we have to be aware that those who really wanted to become a psychoanalyst, if they don't do a very profound, extensive, and with deep, going deep on their training, they won't become a psychoanalyst. And this will be shown on their own practice. If you have had a very good psychoanalytic training, you will be able to attend your patients, to deal with your counter-transference, to deal with the setting, so on and so forth. And this will, I think, will be something that will be shown at the analysis that each of us will be doing with our patients. This is the big proof to me that we can or cannot be a very good trained psychoanalyst. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you too. There is a comment to this. Just I think what I think is very important for all of us. I will just read it. What are the most important tools psychoanalysis must never lose, even if things change and indeed have to change? I think this is on the line what you both have said and what I personally I am also thinking. Yes. There is a personal question. Sorry, yeah, Sergio.
Very good. And we addressed that at the Boston Congress. At the Boston Congress, we addressed exactly that, the changing world and which are the tools we have been developing on since we started as a profession.
Yes, yes. Very important just to remind us, yeah. There is a personal question from, I don't know from which country this question comes, but there is a question with also respect to potential starting of training, the question whether or formation, the master in clinical psychology is something or a degree which allows to start training. I personally, I think it depends on, of course, on several questions related to the country, but do you want to answer this question? Master in clinical psychology. I think it's, but I don't want you, Virginia.
Yes, I would like to have the answer, but it depends on the rules every country has, you know. Every country has different rules. Of course, psychologists are welcome, not only welcome, they have, of course, the right to ask for a training wherever you are. And this has to do, because this is a very old story when psychologists were not admitted in the IPA. So there was a time you needed to be an MD, and this was the case when I had my training. But it depends on the rule, not only on the rules, on the laws in each country. So I cannot answer. I can say that in every country they have the regulations, because we are not in charge of regulation, the practice regarding your previous studies. This is not the IPA. But I have to tell, I would like to say something that there was, I think that it was during Stefanos, the former administration, there is a new, quite new committee on, and you can see it in the organogram. This is very useful for people who would like to know more. There is, I don't remember exactly the name, a relocation of analysts. So it has a chair and members from different regions. So if somebody, and this is happening now in the world, you know, if some analyst or a candidate needs to emigrate or to move to another country, they help this person. Each country has its own regulation, but they can go to that committee and to ask, you know, these kind of questions. The other one was the, sorry, Sergio.
Just to add that IPA has a non-discrimination policy. It says that we don't discriminate which person wanted to go into a psychoanalytic training. I think that if they are allowed to work in clinical practice, they can go into any kind of psychoanalytic training, you know. And this relates not only on profession, but also in terms of race, gender, cultural, so on and so forth.
Yes. Yes, yes. But the question is, your degree allows you or not to work with patients? I think this is the question, and it's different in different countries. If I understood well, and the non-discrimination policy is important. So you asked something about the most important tools, and yes, of course, Sergio was the chair of the program committee in Boston, and he or his committee invited me to give one of the keynote papers, and it was very interesting to study. So as I said, thank you very much, because you made me study. When somebody asks me to give a talk, and so I go and study. So thank you very much. It took me almost 6 months to, this. I don't like to put myself in the center of the thing, but this is a very important question that of course the papers are available and they are already published, but which are the most important tools that the analysts use? So I use the concept, Foucault concept of your toolbox, no? But at that time, I think that there are tools that are, common and important and are at the core of our practice. The notion of the unconscious, the notion of the transference, the notion of okay, I don't want to forget anything, but the fundamental concept in that paper that is published on the IGP as well, I made an experiment with myself. I studied the interpretation, that this is one of the most important tools in our work, in our daily work with patients at any age. And I went to some materials I had from the past, and I found of course a clinical material in which I worked with a 5-year-old boy, and I studied myself and the way my way of interpreting changed from 35 or I don't know, something years ago, because we experience changes that maybe are subtle if somebody sees them from the exterior. But I can say that I use the interpretation, of course, but I change the way I interpret today. I speak less, I'm less assertive, I wait for the patients to produce, I don't give meaning. So there are some aspects, but these are the most important tools. The unconscious, the transference, also the countertransference, the interpretation and the setting. There are more, neutrality, there are more, but these are the most important tools. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you, Virginia, for just clarifying and stating all the important tools. I see that we are coming not immediately to the end, but we are approaching the end. So I just want to mention questions. I think that you will not be able to answer these questions because at least 2 of them are very, very broad. At first, I want to just give a comment that a colleague said that we are just are used to know that the dialogue between analyst and patient can help to overcome some obstacles, and parallel to this, the strong bond between all of us as analysts is also of great help. I think this is a very important comment. One question is more just more on again about the way of communication. Perhaps there was the wish to have more news about the new committees. Can you say something about more on the new committees? And there are 2 other questions on our 3. I think they are very, very broad. There one question, I will only just mention it, and then you can select what you want to answer. What do you think about the frequency debate? Yeah, and as here, some countries have even problems with the frequency of 3 times a week, not the debate about 4 or 5 times a week. Now here's the question also that already 3 times a week could be a problem. What do you think of this? And then is another question that an IPA Congress has been titled in previous years, One Psychoanalysis or Many? The question, is this still an up-to-date question? Yeah. And then I think this is the question of whether the IPA is a superordinate regulatory authority or a collective of psychoanalytic colleagues and groups. I think this relates also to the question of hierarchy, dominance, and so. I think we can have no questions anymore, yeah, and please don't ask any questions anymore at this moment, and I will give the words to you.
To give Virginia the most part of the time, to say something, Dr. Rosa, one of our main leaders in my society, used to say about frequency. She used to say, 1 session is better than none, 2 sessions is better than 2, 3 sessions is better than 3, so on and so forth. And while you start with the patient with 1 session, it's not uncommon that they start to understand the process and start to ask for more questions, more sessions. I have many patients that started with 1 session and now are on 3, even 4 sessions a week.
Yes, let me say something. I would like to have some more time because it always happens when it's, you know, the best of the debate, we have to, but this happens with our psychoanalytic process as well, and everything has to come to an end. So the frequency debate, it's interesting. You, as I said before, when I spoke at the beginning, all changes generate turbulences, and the change on the variation of the I think on from 4 to 5 to 3 to 5, 4 to 5 to 3 to 5, of course, generated the turbulence that is still there. This is maybe why the question comes. I think what I can say that this was a decision taken by the board because some societies requested for this. This was a decision made by the board. So I think, as Sergio said, more frequency, I think we work better. There is no doubt. And as the issue refers to training, I think that the 3 sessions per week basis is the minimum standards, and I hope that it will remain like this. It will remain. I'm in favor for it to remain, even if it is difficult to find patients. I understand, all the concerns. And the other that came to my mind, and the debate is still ongoing, but we have different debates. All changes, as I said, come with turbulences. And the suggestion for the Congress, it's okay. We will have to give this for the next administration. We will provide this information. And if the question about if the IPA is a I don't remember super something, but I always think
superordinate regulatory authority or a collective psychoanalytic colleagues and groups.
No, I think it's both, but it is not a superordinate. I listen to this like a superego, but I don't know if it is referring to that. We have a responsibility, to keep the excellence of our training, and this is a responsibility for those who lead the IPA. And this is our responsibility, and we will keep working in this way. And of course, it's an international organization, a group of colleagues working together, trying to debate among ourselves the differences. And this is very important to keep the debate open and to listen to all the views. Thank you very much for Heriberto.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for
Thank you.
the
Yeah, thank you very much. I think we have to finish the session. And thank you all presenters, listeners, and discussants. Have a nice weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now I think that what Matthew is showing is the upcoming webinar. So yes.
Or you can see the upcoming webinars.
As you see, we have in different languages. We will have in French. I'm advertising the webinars. Yeah. Why not? Why not? And then English. Yes, and then there will be an English webinar devoted, and it was organized by the Intercommittee Project on Prejudice and Racism, and I invite you to be part of both of them. Okay.